In this video we will generate the key signatures of the natural minor scales, from their corresponding relative major scales. We will also consider the use of the notes of melodies in major and minor keys as a means to distinguish when a key signature corresponds to one or the other case. In the treatment of this second aspect, basic concepts of tonal functions will be introduced, to be treated in more detail in later videos. The figure shows the relative major and minor scales using sharps, an aspect studied in the video corresponding to the major scales with sharps, whose link is given in the description. Note that the scales have been arranged in ascending order of fifths, that the tonic of the relative minor scale of a major scale corresponds to the sixth degree of this scale, and that it can also be obtained by descending an interval of a minor third, 3 semitones, from the tonic of the major scale. Also note that the tonic of the relative major scale of a minor scale is at an ascending minor third interval from its tonic. The figure shows the relative major and minor scales using flats, an aspect studied in the video corresponding to the major scales with flats, whose link is given in the description. Note that the scales are arranged in descending order of fifths, ascending order of fourths, and that the location of the tonic of the relative scales is done in the same way as for the scales using sharps, that is, by minor thirds. The observations made in the two previous figures allow the indications for the key signatures of the minor scales to be directly incorporated into the key signature tables obtained in the previous theory video, corresponding to the scales with flats, as shown in the figure. Note that the key signatures for minor scales can also be obtained by the perfect fifths interval counting method that we used in the previous two theory videos. Thus, for example, if an ascending fifth count is made from the tonic A of the A minor scale, we obtain that the E minor scale has a sharp on the note F. A, B, C, D, E. And if a descending fifth count is made from the tonic A of the A minor scale, we obtain that the D minor scale has a flat in the note B. A, G, F, E, D. The fact that the relative major and minor scales share the same key signature raises the problem that a method must be available to determine which of these modes corresponds to the piece shown in the score. This is a problem that we will study in detail in a later video, but in this video we will consider some aspects that are essential, not only in the solution of this problem, but also in the tonal system of musical composition. For this study we will use the C major scale and its corresponding relative scale, the A minor scale, but the concepts introduced are applicable to the other pairs of relative scales. The figure shows the generating chords considered in the video corresponding to the major and minor modes of the diatonic scales, the link to which is given in the description. Note that both the major and minor chords give rise to a scale that has the natural notes, but a melody that develops around the note C taken as the tonic and whose harmonization base is the chords C major, F major and G major, will be in the major key of C, while a melody that develops around the note A taken as the tonic, and whose harmonization base is the chords A minor, D minor, and E minor will be in the minor key of A. If you enter the suggested searches on YouTube, you will get several melodies incorporated into this channel that illustrate the above concepts in practice. You will get a larger sample if you do this same search in Spanish. In the introduction of each of these melodies, the chords used in their accompaniment and their correspondence with the degrees of the scale are indicated. One of the reasons iMusicMate produces two main types of videos, theory and melody, is to give you the opportunity to see the concepts of theory put into practice. The format given to the name of each of the melody videos, title, instrument, key, number of chords was chosen to facilitate the search in order of complexity of the use of chords. To focus on the melody, we will now consider two scores in which the chords are not indicated, information that would make it easier to detect the key. In a later video we will consider the case in which the chords are given. The first 18 measures of Santa Lucia are shown on the screen. Notice that the first measure has two appearances of the note G and concludes on the note C, that the second measure starts on the note C, and that the third measure begins with two appearances of the note F. These are precisely the root notes of the major generating chords of the C major scale. On the other hand, it is only at the end of the third measure that the first of the root notes of the minor generating chords appears, the note A. We conclude then that this melody is in the major key of C. As we will see next, this can be confirmed by inspecting the final bar of the melody. The last 14 measures of Santa Lucia are displayed on the screen. Notice that the last note, in the final measure, is as C. This is not always the case, but many of the melodies written using the tonal system of composition conclude on the tonic, which is a reaffirmation of tonality. We thus have the certainty that this score of Santa Lucia is in the major key of C, which is confirmed in the video dedicated to this melody whose link is given in the description. Let us now consider a second melody. The first 20 measures of Greensleeves are displayed on the screen. Notice that the note A is the only note that appears in the first measure, that the note D appears at the end of the second measure, and that the note E appears at the beginning and end of the third measure. Thus, in the first three measures the notes A, D and E, roots of the minor chords that generate the minor scale of D, have already made their appearance. On the other hand, the note C that appears at the beginning of the second measure also corresponds to the minor chord of A, the tonic chord. We conclude then that this melody is in the minor key of A. As we will see next, this can be confirmed by inspecting the final measure of the melody. The last 13 measures of Greensleeves are shown on the screen. Note that the note of the final measure is in A. We are then certain that this score is in the minor key of A. This is confirmed in the video dedicated to this melody whose link is given in the description. Another detail to consider in identifying the tonality of a melody is that in the tonal composition system the first degree, tonic, usually constitutes a resting point. Two tables are shown on the screen, which indicate the number of uses for each of the notes of the melodies considered, in the range from 4th D to the 5th E, and the total accumulated duration of these uses. The first corresponds to Santa Lucia and the second to Greensleeves. Note that the degrees have been renumbered for the latter, but the note positions have been retained, for ease of comparison. Note also that the notes corresponding to the tonal degrees have a high number of occurrences and a prolonged duration of the total of these occurrences. The justification of some of the values observed in this table requires the use of the concepts of tonal functions, which we will consider in future videos. In the following we will reproduce the two melodies under consideration. You should pay special attention to the use of the notes corresponding to the root notes of the generating chords, an exercise that will help you to reinforce what you have studied here and will be useful in the future. Thank you for watching this video. We hope you enjoyed it and that it will encourage you to carefully study the videos dedicated to tonal functions.